She's hot to go, she's ready. She's hot to go right now. She's hot to go, you got to know. Let's drop and do it, girl. I don't have no liquor shop.
The lady with her hair on fire is on the air. America thinks it. Barbara says it.
She's ready. She's hot to go right now. She's hot to go, you got to know. Let's stop and do it, girl. Well, you can stop her.
Hi, this is Barbara. This is Hair on Fire at KFNX 1100 News Talk Radio. Our call-in numbers are 602-277-5369, 1-866-536-1100. Tonight, our guest is Matthew Vadum. Matthew is wrote the book Subversion about ACORN and their ties to Obama. He's also an editor with Capital Research in Washington, D.C. He is a friend of mine and probably the most talented, knowledgeable young man that you could ever meet in Washington, D.C. One night we were walking to the Washington Press Club to have dinner, and he's saying, so-and-so owns this building, their mortgage is on it, they've refinanced it. ACORN, that's their building, they bought it for so-and-so, they've refinanced it, they owe this much on it, and they've given this much money to the Obama administration, and I mean just on and on. Practically every building from where we were walking to the Washington Monument to the Washington Press Club, he could tell you the whole history about it, which really impressed me. He is going to be calling in just a moment, and we have Randy Pullen with us, the former Arizona GOP chairman and RNC treasurer. Say good evening, Randy.
Good evening, Barbara.
Get up and dance on the table, Randy. He was just dancing to the music before Wayne told him he better be careful, he'd break something.
Did you say this is the most honest person you know in Washington, D.C.?
Most knowledgeable.
Okay.
And he is extremely honest. He really is. He is the neatest person you could ever meet and knows, the dirt on just about everybody. So we really have a good time when we get together.
I bet you do.
We do.
So we're not going to talk about Wienergate tonight at all?
We have to talk about Wienergate just a little bit, but we have to let Matthew tell us about ACORN and SEIU.
I'm looking forward to that.
And what they are doing. As a matter of fact, Matthew, your friend David Norquist, not Norquist, that's somebody else.
That's Grover.
That's Grover.
Not my friend.
Not his friend. David Norquist was the moderator at a function that Matthew was one of the speakers at. And that's how I met David Norquist. That I was determined to get on this program.
Well, David is one of the few honest people in Washington, D.C., so there aren't very many of them there.
But he lives in Virginia.
Well, that's true.
Matthew, hi, honey.
Hey, how are you, Barbara?
I'm fine. We've got the former chairman of the Arizona GOP with us and the RNC treasurer, Randy Pullen, so you can pull up everything you want to tell us about him real quick-like.
Okay.
We only
Hi,
want
Randy.
Well, that will be a very short discussion.
We only want dirt, though. We don't want anything good about him.
There aren't any tweets out there floating around with me in my underwear.
Really?
None.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty positive of that.
Okay, I'll have to ask my spies about that.
If they were taken while I was asleep.
That's what they always say.
What do you think? We're going to get to your book and ACORN, but tell me what you think about Wienergate.
I just can't say on the radio what I think.
I can tell you what
I could just keep making wiener jokes till the end of time. It never gets
Well,
boring.
I'm looking forward to the Wiener-Spitzer duel on the radio. I think that's going to be quite a show.
I can tell you what I think. He should be embarrassed to take a picture of it, and nobody should have that ugly of underwear.
Well, what are you going to do?
I don't know. Buy something, a little spinning glitz.
Men don't care. A lot of men are not really focused on their undergarment.
Yeah, we don't have like Victoria's Secret for men, where you can go in and get fancy underwear.
Mm-hmm. I beg to differ with you. I gave John Little, when we had Scottsdale leadership, we gave John Little a going-away present, and we gave him men's silk underwear, and they were really snazzy. Stick with me, honey. I'll get you some.
Don't you have to have it dry cleaned?
Yes.
It's not that easy to care for.
Matthew, don't be practical about this.
But that's the problem with men. We tend to be practical.
You're just supposed to slip them on and slip them off.
I have a feeling a lot of men would apply the smell test to it to see how many days they could get out of it. Sniff. It seems okay to me. As long as
we call it the wiener test?
Animals, then you're okay.
The wiener test.
The wiener test, yeah.
Well, I'm sure.
Quite a wiener.
I'm sure. Well, the only thing that I thought of when I saw it to begin with was the Hebrew National commercial, all meat and no filler.
That's awesome.
That was exactly what crossed my mind when I saw that.
Timing.
We just really
talk about bad ad placement.
I know that just ran across my. You know how I am. That just ran across my head. The Hebrew National commercial.
Those are the best hot dogs around.
I know. Do you?
They're the only ones I buy.
Well,
I'm not being paid by them to say that.
I'm sure it is the only ones you buy. Now, let me ask you this: do you think that they will? I don't know if you saw my latest tweet or not.
Latest tweet?
Twit, whatever it is. You know that there is a dating service in Scottsdale called Sweet Date something or other. They have made an offer, you'll love this one, to the representative. They will give him $50,000 if Anthony Weiner will be their talking head.
That would be great.
Don't you think that's funny?
That is funny. Anthony Weiner or Anthony Weiner's Wiener?
Well, they wanted Anthony Weiner's Wiener to be the talking head. I think that was going to be I think it's funny anyway. All right, now, I know that you've been working on this book for just eons. Since you have written this book, Subversion, if you guys would like to buy it, you can go to American Freedom by Barbara and buy it through Amazon. You'll get a little discount if you do that. I have it posted on my website. Has any new developments taken place?
With ACORN?
Yes.
Oh, since the book went to press, yeah. Yes. A few events happened after. ACORN was convicted in your neighboring state, Nevada, in April, I think it was April anyway, of in a massive voter registration fraud conspiracy. This is the first time that ACORN, the actual organization, had been convicted of a crime. So that was a major accomplishment there. Yet for the prosecution, the sentencing is not going to happen for a few months. Previously, and I compiled the most extensive list of people associated with ACORN, of the crimes related to election fraud. The most extensive one ever seen, and it's in the book. And I found 54 people associated with ACORN had been convicted of voter fraud or variations of it over the years. So that's a lot of people.
Well, we had to deal with them here in Arizona, Matthew. I mean, there was a problem. I mean, there was a time when it was a serious problem here in Arizona, and it was getting worse. And then we did Prop 200 in 2004.
Can you tell me what Prop 200
Prop 200 was where we required proof of ID in order to register the vote.
You racist?
You could say that, but I certainly had lots of people call me that at the time when I was the chairman of that. But
how dare you ask what everyone needs to get a library? Ask for what everybody needs to get a library card or to get on a flight. Shame on you.
What are you going to do? I mean, some of us think you should follow the laws.
Well, that's just this is not a politically correct view.
But I will tell you that
you're not going to go very far in the Democratic Party.
Actually, I think I probably would go a long ways because they could use a good organizer.
Probably.
Theirs has got another job.
Right. Or you could be a Democratic community disorganizer.
I just
that's
would,
really what these people are.
I know. I think it would be helpful to give a little bit of background on ACORN, how they evolved and how they got to where they are, and they are a huge problem, and I know that. And anybody who's been a chairman of a state party I feared ACORN coming into our state, what they might do. So, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, and for good reason. They're bad. It's a bad organization.
There's no laws or rules made that govern them. They can do whatever they want to do in the name of voter fairness or whatever they want to call it today.
What's the politically?
They consider themselves to be above the law.
Totally, absolutely. They don't think they're bound by any laws as long as they're what they say dealing with civil rights of the oppressed in this country.
Well, and that's one of the important things that a lot of people don't understand, especially journalists, is that ACORN is not a civil rights group. They claim to be, but what civil rights are they advancing? They're advancing these fanciful rights, such as, the right to health care, the right to welfare, things that are not in the United States Constitution. So, basically whenever liberals or Democrats think that something should be done, they say it's a right, that it's in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
They just make it up.
Everything is a civil right, is the way they view it. I mean, you're entitled to everything.
It's my right to pick your pocket.
It's they believe in egalitarian ends.
Egalitarianism run amok is the way I'd put it.
And that's not how we got to be the country we are today. So maybe a little bit of background would be helpful to our listeners.
We're good.
On ACORN's formation, or which part of it would you like me to go over? Because this is a 120,000-word book.
I'm looking at the book right now. It's
you can when you're finished with it, you can use it to kill. You can use it to kill household vermin.
Well, I think
or elephants.
I think it's a vast organization, is what people don't understand.
It's a vast left-wing conspiracy.
It is, and they are totally geared to getting money from the government to fund what they do, and I think people have to understand that.
Matthew, hang on. We've got to get money from a sponsor for just a second. We'll be right back.
Cha-ching. Okay.
She's hot to go, she's ready, she's hot to go right now. She's hot to go, you got to know, let's drop and do it, girl. I don't have no liquor shop.
The lady with her hair on fire is on the air. America thinks it, Barbara says it.
Hi, this is Barbara, KFNX 1100 News Talk Radio, and this is Hair on Fire. Callers, 602-277-5369 or 1-866-536-1100. We're with Matthew Vadum, the author of Subversion, and an editor with Capital Research in Washington, D.C., and Randy Pullen, the former chairman of the Arizona GOP. And we just had a judge wander into the studio, so we're on good behavior. We got to go, here comes a judge, here comes a judge. We've got Judge Clancy with us. Go, Matthew.
You better not. I better be careful. I don't know if his power extends to Washington, D.C., though.
It doesn't.
He's not a federal judge. Well, good.
No.
For that.
Well, he's a justice court judge here, but he's been a very busy man last few months.
Judge or justice of the peace?
Justice of the peace, sir.
Ah, okay.
He could marry you if you come to Arizona.
That'd be awesome.
We got to find you somebody to marry,
There's
though.
a double meaning there, yes. Or we could go to Canada and and he could marry me.
True.
No, not out of state.
Not out of state.
Just in Arizona, and it has to be opposite sex.
Jokingly. Because marry can be used as a verb, can be used passively or actively.
Okay. Let's get back to ACORN.
I'm not saying that right, but anyway.
We understand. You can use marry any way you want to, right?
Okay. All right, ACORN, what do you want to know?
Okay, Randy.
Well, just before the break, we were talking about what a large, subversive, vast organization they are, and they're totally pretty much funded by the government at this point. So I really want to talk a little bit about who they are, who drives them, and where's the money come from, and why do we need to be scared of them?
Well, you need to be scared of them because I need to sell books. No, but seriously, you need to be scared of ACORN because they are an anti-American, left-wing anti-American group. They don't believe in the American way, the American way of doing things. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in capitalism. They came out of the radical New Left in the 1960s. They want to burn the whole system down. And you know, they're very clear about what they want to do. The founder, ACORN's founder, Wade Rathke, is very clear about favoring violence as a means of bringing a radical transformation to society. And he's written on this topic repeatedly. He thinks it's okay to, he wrote an essay where he said, well, why can't we have some tree spikers in our movement? Well, tree spiking, driving a spike into a tree in a forest in the hope that a lumberjack will hurt himself when he's harvesting the tree. This is a pretty malicious way of looking at things. And that's what ACORN's about. They're about violence and intimidation. They're part advocacy group, part organized crime syndicate, part urban terrorist cell. So, they're a bad bunch of people.
And the president was an ACORN?
The president was. He was an ACORN employee. In 1992, he led the Project Voter Drive in Chicago. Project Vote was a division, is a division of ACORN. It's their voter registration, voter mobilization affiliate. And he helped get a radical left-winger elected to the U.S. Senate from Illinois, Senator Carol Moseley Braun. She only lasted one term because she was corrupt and she was thrown out by the voters of her state, or she might not have run again. I'm not clear on that. She only did the one term anyway. Obama also lectured and trained activists for ACORN, and he represented ACORN in court as the group's lawyer. So he goes way back. And in the lead-up to the 2008 election, he attended ACORN gatherings, and he reassured the people there that he was still part of the team and that he was going to bring them in to be part of the administration very early, even before the administration was created, during the transition phase from the Bush administration to the Obama administration. And he was true to his word. Radical community organizers dominate the upper echelons of the Obama administration. One of them is, apart from Obama himself, Patrick Gaspard. Patrick Gaspard was basically Obama's Karl Rove, held the same position, White House political director. And he's a very low-profile person, so you probably have never even heard of him prior to reading my book. Likely thought David Axelrod was in charge of these things. Well, that's not actually true, and David Axelrod humbly defers to Gaspard and recognizes him as the greater political talent. So, anyway, Gaspard worked for ACORN, or at least ACORN founder Wade Rathke said he did, and then once it got him in trouble, he denied it, and it's all it's murky, but there's no question that Gaspard had a strong, close relationship with ACORN. He has now, it's really scary where Mr. Gaspard has gone. Did you know that he is now, and this happened around press time, so there's only about a sentence or so about it in my book, in parentheses somewhere, saying that he had just been appointed executive director of the Democratic National Committee. This is the Democratic Party's, central organization that, gets out the vote, and it runs the campaign. So to have an ACORN veteran, a Saul Alinsky-inspired radical who hates America, running the Democratic National Committee tells you a lot about the Democratic Party, and it ought to scare the bejesus out of anybody who is concerned about American democracy. Want me to keep going?
Yes.
Okay.
Randy's
I'm
sitting
going to start
here.
hiding under the table here in a minute.
Just ask a question, Barbara.
Stay
on track.
I thought Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the DNC chairman.
She is, but an executive director is the person. She's like a figurehead. She's more like, if to put it use military metaphors, or to compare it to the military. She's the general, but the man but Patrick Gaspard is the colonel. He's carrying out the orders from on high.
He's the chief of staff.
He's chief of staff. His title is executive director.
Okay.
So he runs the day-to-day operations. I'm sure Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the congresswoman from Florida with the annoying shrill voice and the really weird-looking hairstyle, I'm sure that she is very involved in running the Democratic National Committee, but I don't think she's there 9 to 5 every day. Patrick Gaspard is, and he is. There's no doubt in my mind that he's plotting, especially considering that the Democratic National Committee created that organization, Organizing for America, which is supposed to be like a community organizing group. So he's got a lot of troops at his disposal who are going to get out there and get in people's face come election time and cause trouble. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
All right. Now, you told me in Washington when Congress had defunded, we got 2 minutes again. Ma'am, we're going fast here.
2-minute warning.
Yeah. When Congress defunded ACORN, that it was only good for a year, and the time was almost up, so that they could come back in and get money from the taxpayer?
Yeah, that's the way Congress does things typically. They didn't pass a freestanding bill. They didn't pass just a piece of legislation saying ACORN can never be funded by the U.S. government again. They tacked it on as a rider, as an amendment to an appropriations bill. I think it was the continuing resolution for that year because Congress hadn't bothered to do its appropriations. Its spending bills were not completed. So it was tacked on as an amendment, and it only ran till the end of the fiscal year, which was the subsequent October. So I guess that would have been October 2010, October 1, 2010. It expired. So, yeah, ACORN could still be funded. But now, Congressman Steve King, a Republican of Iowa, is a really courageous, strong opponent of ACORN. He tacked a rider onto the Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill, saying no money from the bill should go to ACORN or to any of its newly renamed affiliates throughout the country.
So do they know?
It hasn't been approved by the Senate yet, but we'll see what happens.
Do they know the name? Okay, we'll be right back. Hang in there.
Okay.
She's hot to go, she's ready, she's hot to go right now. She's hot to go, you got to know, let's stop and do it,
The lady with her hair on fire is on the air. America thinks it. Barbara says it.
Hi, this is Barbara. This is KFNX 1100 News Talk Radio. Our call-in numbers are 602-277-5369, 1-866-536-1100. If you would like to email a question, it's haironfire@q.com. Also, if you would like to advertise on the program, it's haironfire@q.com. And I would like to remind you that you can buy Matthew Vadum's book, Subversion, at www.americanfreedombybarbara.com through Amazon, and you'll get a discount. Isn't that nice of me, Matthew, to see that you sell books?
That's so awesome.
I know, because you promised to take me out if I could sell any.
I'm going to have to take you out to some place special next time you come to Washington, D.C.
That McDonald's across the street from the hotel, honey, ain't going to hack it.
Well, there is Five Guys.
That's true. Five Guys is okay.
It's a much better burger joint.
That's true. Randy wants to know what we can do to stop ACORN from doing this.
Is Randy still there?
Randy's still here.
Randy is here. I've been listening to everything you have to say. I'd like to also...
but now you have a spokeswoman.
We do.
But, you know, he won't let me say what I really want to say, so I had to clean up that question a lot. But he's sitting here, well, you can just see his brain twirling about what you're saying. And part of the time he wanted to get under the desk.
How have they, Matthew, how have they managed to get people like Bruce Springsteen behind them and some of the other celebrities? I mean, what is that all about?
There's a lot of uneducated celebrities out there. That seems to me to be the simplest explanation, most logical one. They're do-gooders, like Barbara. Other ones who have given to ACORN in addition to Bruce Springsteen are Barbara Streisand. You know, I don't know if I would describe her as an intelligent person. Roseanne Barr, come on. Others who are associated with ACORN or branches of ACORN, Cynthia Nixon from the TV series on HBO, Sex and the City, and Matt Damon as well. So these are not the most. They may think they're very well informed, but they're not. Especially that Matt Damon guy.
Well, yeah, but they're credible people out there, and it gives them cover for what they're doing. What are some of the other organizations that they're aligned with?
That ACORN is aligned with?
Correct.
Well, ACORN is so massive that they worked with other organizations. They worked with SEIU, Service Employees International Union. In fact, two of their branches, Locals 100 and 880 in New Orleans and Chicago, respectively, were branches of ACORN, actually controlled by ACORN. ACORN worked closely with various other labor-based left-wing organizations such as Jobs with Justice. But a lot of the time, ACORN is muscling out other groups. And I give an example in the book of there's an activist group in San Francisco where they stormed their meeting and they caused problems. And they do this sort of thing all the time. If you don't cooperate with ACORN is gonna try to roll you. So, and that's their strategy, is to ice the competition. And they actually use that word ice.
Tell me about the marching song from ACORN. In our cities, in our states, we're the ones that pay the freight. But the rich folks go rolling along. Keep us divided, whites from blacks, moderate and poor on different tracks, and the rich folks go rolling along. How is it, if they want to keep the whites divided from the blacks, that they have both groups in their organization?
Well, it was a multiracial organization. Lots of people of lots of different colors and nationalities. Well, they claim that they're promoting racial unity, but like any left-wing organization, they don't believe in. They like to drive wedges between racial groups and play groups off against each other. So this idea that they're promoting racial harmony is just poppycock. I think in that song, the ACORN marching song, which is sung to the tune of the Caisson song, Over Hill, Over Dale.
Yeah.
They're saying that the rich folks are keeping whites and blacks divided, and that the wealthy run society and play off various groups against each other, which is exactly what ACORN does. So they're accusing their enemies of doing what they do.
Matthew, I know that you do a lot of research at Capital Research, and that you're one of the mogul editors there. How did you come to hone in on ACORN?
In 2008, I started here at Capital Research Center 5 years ago, May of 2006, and I'd heard about ACORN, but I didn't know much about them. I didn't pay a lot of attention to them. Back then, they were a low-profile group. 2008 changed that because one of their veterans, Obama, ran for the presidency, and so suddenly everybody wanted to know what a community organizer was and what ACORN did. But I'd heard of them, but not very much. And then 2008, I started to get fascinated with Saul Alinsky and who wrote Rules for Radicals and taught that you should use brutal, in-your-face tactics, including intimidation and blackmail to get your way and to bring about social change. And they were so fascinatingly depraved that, it's like looking at a car wreck. You can't help it. You can't help rubberneck while you drive by it. And they're just so grotesque and immoral and sinister that, and I kept finding new things, again and again and again, and writing articles. And so it just became fascinating to me. It really helped in the summer of 2008 when there was a $1 million embezzlement. The founder's brother, ACORN's founder, Wade Rathke, his little brother, Dale, was the chief financial officer in charge of all the money for the ACORN network, which had a budget of probably well above $100 million a year. He stole $1 million in 2008, and his big brother, Wade, covered it up for him and kept him on the payroll for 8 years. Well, when the National Board of ACORN found out about that, that was too much even for them. So they fired Wade Rathke. And, that was a fascinating thing. How could they cover something up, $1 million being missing for 8 years? And so that got me really, really interested. And I developed all sorts of sources, all sorts of insiders with ACORN that were unhappy with the direction the organization was taking. And they shared documents with me and gave me a lot of inside information, much of which is in the book. So, does that answer your question?
Pretty much. Randy?
Well, I was just wondering, you make the point, and I've seen it too, that they come after you, and they try to destroy you. Have they tried to come after you at all?
No, not yet. I don't know. I hope
they had to know you're doing the research on the book and looking into them and talking to people and getting information.
They probably knew about it. Contacted at ACORN a few times, and every time they lied to me, and I can prove that they lied. So, after a while, there just is no point in making the call.
You know what?
The real story
the problem
from somebody
is
on the inside.
They don't call that lying. That's just normal talk for them.
That's right, because their strategy up until 2008 anyway, when they started to feel the heat because Obama was running and throwing this was putting a spotlight on ACORN and then the embezzlement and so on. Their typical response, whenever confronted with any problems, is just to call their accuser racist. And it worked beautifully for nearly 40 years, Republicans would say, we want to investigate all this voter fraud that's coming out of ACORN and all their corrupt dealings, and then the ACORN's leaders would just call the Republicans racists, and the Republicans would run away with their tails between their legs.
Well, I've had that experience, and you just have to confront them with it. You just cannot roll over on it. When they start calling you a racist, you just have to call them out on it. And they pretty quickly...
That's the problem, even with a lot of Republicans criticizing Obama. They're not really going after him whole hog because they're afraid of being called racist. They don't want to deal with that.
Well, we got to get over that because, if they call you a racist and you shrink from the argument, you lose. And you've got when they do that, you got to confront them with it, and you're
only encouraging them.
Exactly.
If you don't
what you're doing is you're telling them that their tactics are working, and you can't do that.
It's my opinion that if a leftist, without cause, labels you as calls you a racist, in a public forum or what have you, that you should take their house, you should sue them, and get a defamation, get a judgment against them for libel, and take away their property, take their house.
We'll be back.
Make them homeless.
Matthew, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Hang in with us. I want you to give us your opinion when we come back, how to counteract ACORN's tactics.
All righty.
She's hot to go, she's ready, she's hot to go right now. She's hot to go, you got to know, let's stop and do it, girl. I don't have no makeup.
The lady with her hair on fire is on the air. America thinks it, Barbara says it.
Hi, this is Barbara. We're back with Matthew Vadum and Randy Pullen and Judge Clancy, who is being really quiet because he doesn't want us to get him involved in anything that he could lose his bench for, or whatever it is he does. Okay, Matthew, tell us how we can counteract the ACORN tactics.
Well, you like Randy was saying, you have to call them on it. I'm not really like a master strategist or tactician or anything like that. I study this kind of thing. But I think that when these things happen, you have to press, if the law is broken, you have to press the authorities to lay charges. So if one of ACORN's favorite tactics is to invade a bank and then to do a sit-in, well, have the people charged with trespassing. Most banks aren't willing to do that because banks are big wusses when it comes to things like that. They're very afraid. They have a very conservative public relations approach, so they're always trying to steer clear of trouble. There are other things that ACORN does that are clearly, that are undeniably illegal and that action should be taken on. Like, for example, a home invasion. They will break into a foreclosed property and then claim it as their house and begin squatting on it and try to get the authorities to convey the title to them. So when they break in, they should be charged. But a lot of law enforcement officials and politicians around the country, especially now with so many mortgages being, so many homes being foreclosed upon, are not willing to lay trespassing charges, and breaking and entering charges. But they ought to do it.
Well,
so you got to hold them responsible. Basically, I guess is what I'm saying. And when they break the law, you got to have them charged. Don't put up with it.
I think the justice of the peace here has had that experience in his court.
Well, yes, we have, Matthew, and I don't know. I think you're speaking nationwide, but I have found that the law enforcement people, especially in Maricopa County, have been very reactive and responsive to illegal trespassing and enforcement seizure, and have really been a pretty strong advocate. Our sheriff, he usually doesn't take many. Well, he takes a lot of prisoners, but he doesn't take excuses.
The best sheriff in the world.
Well, we think so, and that's why
you're talking about Joe Arpaio, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, he's great. He's a serious law and order man, and he's not a liberal.
Definitely not a liberal.
Well, yeah, but that's unusual. You're you're not in Boston or Chicago or someplace like that where they don't take trespassing and breaking and entering into foreclosed homes as seriously. Happened in Baltimore too, where they're just reluctant to lay charges.
Well, we had a situation here in Arizona this last election where in the southern part of the state, a group, probably with some ACORN support, were out gathering voter registrations, last-minute voter registrations, and they walked into the county, Yuma County Recorder, and flooded them with registrations at the last minute. And so, they're frantic trying to get all these processed in order to, get the books closed for the election. And they get overwhelmed. And we know for a fact, because we sent people down there, that they were not following their own rules. And they were basically pushing through these voter registrations in order just to get them done. And we kind of got right in the middle of it. And there was a lot of angst and there's a lot of upset county employees, but you have to call them on it. You just can't let them get away with this stuff. And we managed to slow it down. We didn't stop it, but we certainly slowed it down before the election. And you have to be ready. And the way you get ready for them is you got to go after them all the time, but you have to have a strong group of attorneys with you at election time, trained, ready to go, on the phone. So when these situations happen, and they do happen at voting sites, that you immediately jump on it and deal with it. Because they'll roll you if they can, they'll roll you.
Yeah, absolutely, or at least they'll try to. You just got to hold them accountable. There are many different ways of doing that, and I've just suggested a few. So, but I'm sure there are many more.
You have been on several nationwide programs.
I might be on one right now. I was supposed to be on one at 10 Eastern, Follow the Money, Fox Business Channel.
Well, that's true, but you're now on one worldwide, in case you're not aware.
That one was taped, but yes. Yep,
well, this one isn't taped, and it's worldwide.
Live, and it's more exciting.
That's right, because I'm more exciting than Fox News.
You're definitely better looking than Eric Bolling.
Well, Matthew, we thank you for doing this for us, though. I mean, people need to understand. They need to buy your book. They need to understand what a serious problem this is here in this country.
I thank you for having me on. I'm happy to do it, and you can have me back again if you want, because I think the book is going to have a pretty long shelf life. People have told me that they view it not just as a book, they view it as a resource for understanding community organizers. So I hope they're right. I hope it becomes something that people carry around with them.
Oh, we've got a phone call. Hold on. Oh, he hung up? Okay.
We almost had a phone call.
Well, yeah, apparently we didn't answer it fast enough. Anyway, you're working on another book?
No. I'd like to write another book. I'm thinking about various things to write about.
What are you investigating at the moment or researching at the moment that's exciting?
Well, at the moment, let's see. We're looking at all the coalition of left-wing groups that are trying to impose net neutrality on the Internet. Don't ask me to explain net neutrality. It's too hard for me to explain. I'm not sure that I understand it, but basically it would allow the long arm of government to start bossing around Internet hosting companies, and all the other people involved.
Okay. Jim, are you on the phone?
Good evening, Barbara.
Good evening. How are you? You have a question for Matthew?
More a comment, because I certainly am not calling to drop the R-bomb, but I would use a word with a silent W in the front of it, that I would just say that you're wrong respectfully, and the justice of the peace most especially should know that your guest that wrote a book that I call Perversion, it's wrong to suggest and hold somebody guilty by association, because I don't respect our president. I wish he were not in the White House. But you can't be pinning him with all these pinning all these other things that ACORNistas are doing onto him. It isn't right. And I had to live through 8 years of people doing it to Bush, our honorable former president. And by the way, I can't help but believe that if Joseph Arpaio has misappropriated just one, let alone $100 million of taxpayers' money, if he were a Democrat, you'd be calling for his head.
I think they are calling for his head, and
They're
the
not
rest
calling
of
for
it.
his head.
Oh, I don't even know anything about the local scandal there. First time I've heard about it. I'm not accusing President Obama of all the horrible things that ACORN has done.
Then why did you bring him up?
People. These are his people. They believe
These are
in the
his
same
people?
things that he
That's
does.
guilt by association, sir. That's innuendo. That's implication.
No, that's not guilt
that's
by
wrong.
association. That's guilt by participation.
No,
he worked for this group. He represented them in court. He approves of them. In 2007, 2008, he gave speeches to them. He told them that I've been glad to work alongside you, smack dab in the middle of political campaigns. So, guilt by association is just if he knows somebody and you try to smear him or blacken his name because he knows somebody or somebody is his friend. This is not it. This is an organization he worked for and he represented in court. So you really don't know what you're talking about.
Can I just say one more thing? Your Honor, it's time for you to interject and say you can't speak such things like that in my courtroom because it's wrong to hold somebody guilty by association.
Actually, it's not his courtroom.
Amen.
It's mine. And I invited Matthew as a guest, James, and he is telling us about his book, which he has researched in great depth and has the right to his opinion the same as you do yours.
Well, I hope the caller buys the book. It's there's a lot of stuff in there, and I think you'll see that this is not a guilt by association thing. It details a whole catalog of horrible things that ACORN has done, and that obviously President Obama didn't have anything to do with the embezzlement, for example. He didn't have anything to do with the undercover child hooker videos that Andrew Breitbart publicized. He didn't have anything to do with that, and I believe him when he said he thought that was bad and that he didn't approve of the ACORN employees bending over backwards to facilitate, the creation of a house of prostitution.
James, thanks a lot for calling in. Matthew, thanks a lot. We're getting ready to sign off.
I get to say something.
Judge didn't get to say anything, but we'll be seeing you next week. Thanks for being with us.
I'll be looking at the moon.